The average woman tries to leave 7 times before it's successful.
Wow.
And my son came to me and said, like, I don't understand why you keep letting him back in. Like, I haven't had a childhood because he's been abusive. Like, he's threatened to kill you. He's threatened to kill me. I've, slept with one eye open my entire life. Why do you keep doing this? Like, and I knew all of those things, but being in my face saying that to me, was just the moment where I thought, if I don't love myself enough to get out of this and think I deserve better, then I have to get out of this for my children because they deserve better. And the one thing I've always tried to pride myself on is being a good mom. And in that moment, I recognized that I was not being the best version of myself as a person or as a mother, and that they deserved better.
Welcome back to the Trigger Day of podcast. This is the number one place to explore the shape our lives with raw honesty and unfiltered conversations.
Listen, I want you to get ready to laugh, maybe even cry, and also discover something new about yourself because you can either keep spiraling or
Deal with your triggers. It's yours, boo.
it really is. But I have a sneaky suspicion that if you are here with us today, it just might mean that you are ready to deal with yours. So let's tap all the way in. We have with us today the founder of the Colin James Barth Outreach, Julie Barth. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. Welcome to the Triggered AF podcast. Thank you so much for coming onto this podcast. Today is an episode where it's probably going to get a little touchy. We're talking about a little bit of the pain sometimes we experience when we're going through this healing process and some of the pain that life brings us. So we want to thank you for holding the space for our audience with us. To allow some vulnerability and some real healing, even when it's super uncomfortable. But before we dive off into the deep end, we like to initiate our guests. There's only one question that we ask all of our guests, and that's outside of the roles, the titles, the accolades, the accomplishments, and all the things that you do. Who do you say that you are?
I always gravitate toward mom. I have 6 children, and it's funny because I used to define myself, I think, as a wife and mom. But over the years, I think I've, like I said, gravitated more toward. There's a lot of chaos in our house, but that's I think that defines me best, is just somebody who really, really enjoys their children. So.
I love that. I
Nice.
love that. And to be able to still enjoy what you do as a mom, especially after living through so much loss, caregiving, emotional abuse, what would you say? Because I'm pretty sure it's been a journey. I mean, I've only had one and it's been a journey. So to have one times six, woo child. So, what would you say was the moment in your journey that first made you realize, yo, I have to tell this story?
I think there's two separate situations I think that are really defining in my life. There's been lots, obviously, but I think the first one was when my first husband died. We were childhood sweethearts, and we had a special needs daughter, and he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given 2 weeks to live.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so
Mhm.
I had 4 young children. Our youngest was 6 months. So he actually ended up living 16 months, and they were very difficult months. Some of them, it's funny because a lot of people say, "Oh, were you so blessed?" And it's not that I wasn't blessed, obviously, to have time with them, but it was a very long, drawn out illness. So when he passed, I think is really when I felt like I should, honor his name. I should, really do something to help other people because it was such a chaotic time with these kids running around, and I had a lot of people helping me out. So I kind of felt like that was time for me to give back. But instead of
Mhm.
doing that, at the time, I rolled right into a second relationship, which was a decade of emotional abuse. And I think it's because I bounced from the first one into the second one without really truly dealing with anything.
Yeah.
So coming out of the second relationship, being in those two very different situations, but at the same time very similar, because it was a time when you think you have somebody to lean on, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out and you have nothing instantly. So the second time was when I really recognized that I had made a promise to Colin, my first husband, that I was going to honor his name, give back to all these people, and kind of lost my way. So Second time, I thought this is the universe. Like, okay, got it. You pounded it into my head. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I stopped resisting it and just kind of said, all right, and started listening to really, what the purpose in all of it was.
Yeah. And I think you should give yourself some grace too, in that, like you lost a partner. Your plan was to spend forever together. So bouncing into something new, as you stated, I don't think it was necessarily, oh, I'm trying to run away from my purpose. I think it was hey, this is a profound loss. I have four children already. And you do want, and everyone, well, not everyone, but most people want love, they want care, they want someone to be there to go through the trenches with them. So I think you should give yourself some grace, because that is unimaginable to go through, especially with so many children.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I think that the 16 months were so drawn out. So
Hmm.
when he passed, everyone else started grieving, for them, because they weren't in our house that whole time. It was like they felt this profound loss. And for me, it was like every day was, for 16 months was I'd lose a piece of him. So when everyone else was ready to start grieving, I was kind of like, I've done it. Like I've
The
grieved, and I
big
hadn't
breathing.
fully, but I couldn't sit in it anymore. So I think there was a lot of like, I need to move forward. I need to move my kids forward because they had been immersed in it as well. So
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Wow. In notes from a BlackBerry, you share raw reflections from your past. What do you feel like was the hardest part of putting some of those memories on paper, like finally feeling ready? Because a lot of times we are grieving or we're going through something, we feel like we have to get to the other side before we can help people. We have to be completely healed. We have to feel like I've got it all together now. That was, whatever, and now I'm better or I'm bigger. And it seems like you're still processing, right? And
Yeah.
you're in the trenches and writing and sharing and then eventually putting it out into the world. What was the hardest part of putting everything on paper, and what surprised you in the process?
Well, it's kind of it's it, so Notes from a BlackBerry is actually, it's called Notes from a BlackBerry because I had a BlackBerry phone, and I would take my husband to chemo. Yeah, I know, that's how old I am. But I would take him down to chemo, and we were just coming off. I have a daughter who has primordial dwarfism. So she went through 40 some surgeries and just her pregnancy. And so I was so like, I had just bounced from that, had added two more children to our family, and then boom, this happened with Colin. So I would go down to chemo with him, and I was, when people would ask me, I had so much pent up, like, because I got into these situations that were like one after. I'd bring her in for a cold, and the next thing I knew, I was like reviving her kind of situation. And so when people would ask me, I would immediately go, oh, well, my daughter, and I, blah, blah, blah. And so I felt like I needed to stop just like throwing up my history on people, put it in writing, do what put it away, but put it in writing. So I started writing Tatum's story during our chemo visits, and then it naturally flowed into Colin's story, and it was real time. So what I did was I took all the emails that I emailed back to myself, and I pieced them together into the book Notes from a BlackBerry. So that book actually was written 13, 14 years ago. um, I let it sit on my laptop. I wasn't a writer. I'd done, and then I kind of got into writing, and but it was very surface writing. Some of it was cool, some of it was like HVAC. And I went through this decade with my second husband that was just, it was debilitating, really. And when I was finally coming out of that, I sat down and I forced myself to read it because I hadn't, though, in 14 years. And I got to the end and I went, oh my gosh, crazy didn't even start yet. And in
Wow.
recognizing that, it ends with my husband's passing. And to recognize that all the crazy leading up to that point that I had forgotten about was crazy, but then like, oh, wait a second, like that's just part one. But I did recognize in all of that, I wrote it more for myself and for my children because I knew that they would never get to meet Colin. But I recognized in reading it over that I think it hopefully is useful to people who are, feeling, because a lot of people that read it say like you were so lonely, you were so lonely and isolated. And I didn't feel it at the time, but
Mhm.
reading back over it, I did recognize like, wow, I kept so many things to myself. I hid, I didn't deal with besides in my own head. And I wanted everyone to think that I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And in doing that, I think that I didn't let people in to know how truly not fine I was. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that the book encourages people to, give, like you said, give themselves some grace to know that, in unimaginable circumstances, we all think the same things and we
Oh,
punish
yeah.
ourselves for them because you never want to think, God, I wish he was like gone. That was a really hard thing when you say that in your inner voice, but it's almost like you feel like other people can hear you even if they can't. You heard you, so that's
Yeah.
kind of a thing that you have to reconcile with in the end.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's not because you don't want them to live, but and this is how I feel like if you are suffering to this level, I don't want to be so selfish in wanting you to stay longer knowing you are in this much pain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think giving a voice to folks who feel as though they are voiceless or they cannot say the
Especially
thing.
caregivers of, especially like people, your older
Yeah.
parents, or
Hmm.
yeah,
you have like children who have these illnesses that are just like
Debilitating.
so, yeah, they just affect life so much. And it's like we're naturally, as decent people who are caregiving, you have this, you feel guilty to even think like, oh my gosh, I just want this to end in a way, like I don't want to deal with
yeah,
this.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's so much shame around that, and even around you saying that you were okay in your second marriage. I always talk to Alicia about this, where we're raised, especially in marriages, to feel like you're not supposed to talk about anything that's going on in your household.
yeah,
Like in the Black community, it's very frowned upon for you to
Very.
speak about your marriage, to sing. And I always say, like, I am like 99% sure, like I'm not a scientist or someone that works in statistics, but I'm pretty sure that women are number one for autoimmune disease, number one for Alzheimer's, because we are just taught to just keep everything in. And we do a good job, I think, of sometimes expressing some of our frustration. But I think that there's so much
yeah,
more that is actually just suppressed and stuffed down.
Yeah.
And the shame that comes with even releasing sometimes
Yeah. You feel
is,
so bad.
yeah. And then it
yeah,
just, you end up in this cycle of pretending that everything's okay, everything's okay. I don't want to be the friend that's always in drama. I don't want to be the friend that's
yeah,
always venting. I don't want to be the friend that always has an issue. And it's like, but wait, like that means you don't want to be human. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
like
Yeah.
what kind of sisterhood are you in if your sisters, if your friends, if your family can't hold space for you, regardless of how long that might be?
Yeah. Hey, driver, you're not a part of the community yet? Being in community is the game changer and the cheat code.
And this is more than just a membership. It's your growth circle, accountability hub, and safe space for navigating the messy yet beautiful work of becoming your best self.
And not only will you get exclusive tools, live access, and the support designed to help you transform your triggers, but you'll also get the tools that you need to build new habits that help you to lead with clarity, confidence, and joy.
Time to create lives that feel as good as they look. See you soon, Thrive Tribe. Visit justthrivenow.com.
Yeah, and I think that there is an element where when it does go on for as long as it did, especially because, it was 4 years with Tatum to begin with, and then I had another two. As you said, you get to this point where you're like, nobody wants to hear my sorrows anymore. I very rarely get to like even see people. So when I saw them, the last thing I wanted to do was be like, so let me tell you, like I just wanted to be Julie again. I didn't want to be the special needs mom. I didn't want to be the widow. I didn't want to be the kid. Like I just wanted to be who I was, but yet I couldn't be who I was because that person didn't exist anymore. So, it was almost like
Wow.
I was there,
Your
but
identity
yeah,
was
I wasn't
different.
there anymore. Yeah, I kind of,
Wow.
I
Wow.
just ditched out, like my friends would, I remember some of them saying like, I would just walk away and not on purpose, but it was almost, when you're pregnant and you go out in a group of women and they all start drinking and it's really fun. And then 2 hours in, they're speaking a different language because they're all drunk and you're like, okay, I gotta go. Like, I don't, that's how it was almost
You're like, no,
immediately.
thank you.
I would get with people and, they'd be like, oh, the cleaning lady didn't show up or, Steve was such a jerk last night. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I wish these were my problems. Like I
Yeah.
wish I had that problem. And then,
Yeah.
it's really just like you feel like you just don't, I didn't fit in anymore. I didn't fit into my
Mhm.
married friends. I didn't have single friends. I didn't have friends who had special needs kids. So the families were together, so it was, yeah, it was a really hard time trying to figure out who am I? Because we
Mhm.
were Colin and Julie, and then I was just Julie. And it was our entire adult lives because we were, we got married very young. We were, 23 when we had my first son. We grew up together. I'd never known a time. He was my first kiss in sixth grade. So there,
What?
yeah, so there had never been Julie. I never got to, I went straight from my house to college right into being a mom. So there was no time for me to develop who I was without him. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I'll be honest. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to. I liked being that Julie. So.
Yeah. And there is there's so much grief that comes with having to say goodbye to, who you have loved, who you've fallen, and not your husband who passed away, but you, who you become in being married, in being their mom. To have to say goodbye to that person while also saying goodbye to yourself, it can make the grief have so many more layers
Yeah.
because it's compounded by so many other forms of trauma, especially when you have friends who are talking about things where you're just like, shut up. None of this matters.
Yeah. And then
None of this.
you feel bad because I would be like, Julie, give them some grace. Like, you're just jealous that those are their problems. Because
Yeah.
there was a component where I was
Yeah.
like, you're just being jelly. Like, move on. And I
Move.
think that's why I would just walk away because I was like, I'm being very judgmental. Like,
Yeah.
that would have been me and that should be me. And I shouldn't judge them for not having the problems that I do, but I
Yeah.
just can no longer be in your world, at least not now. Like I have to get through, figuring out who I am and what's important before I start. And I was very like, oh, well, poor you. Oh, well, poor you. You want to hear something? But only in my head, which was
Oh,
even
that's
worse because I
good.
was thinking that. Yeah. But then, like I said, then I had to leave because I was like, I'm not even paying attention anymore. I got to go.
So then, how did you navigate the grieving of your first husband while also caring for your children, one of which has special needs? What was that like? Because we really love to give our listeners some tools that they can use when they are navigating the different levels and complexities that come with grief in all of its forms.
Well, I think because it did go on for so long and I did have Tatum, like when Colin passed away, like I wanted my children to have fun. I wanted to have fun. I wanted things to be light. I wanted, so I think that the things that served me very well getting through to the point of where he passed away, like don't look over there, everything's fine, trying to shield them.
Yeah.
Um, I went into like full on shield mode where like I didn't want anyone upset. I didn't, I vacationed. And that's I think when I met my second husband. He was like younger than me. And while everyone else was saying, Julie, you got to slow down, feel, grieve it. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to. um, he kind of came in and said, you don't have to agree with me. We can just pretend it didn't happen. You don't have to talk about it. I don't care. And he was just, it seemed so wonderful, and I think
It's technically what you asked for and what you wanted.
what I wanted at the time, 100%.
Yeah.
And anyone from the outside would have said, that's a really bad idea. Like, this guy doesn't care about you. But to
Yeah.
me, I thought he was just giving me like space. I didn't recognize that he really just didn't care. um, but I
You
thought
thought
that
it
there
was
were
like
all
your
these other people.
escape.
Yeah,
You thought it was like it was your escapism, like trying
it
to
was.
create a whole new world that maybe
Yeah.
wasn't so painful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, look at how nice he is. He's not going to ask me about how I'm feeling. He's just going to let me, go out too many times or vacation all the time. Or, yeah, I thought he was giving me space. And it seemed to be what I needed at the time. Again, from the outside, I think everyone in my life was kind of like, red flag, you shouldn't be doing this. He doesn't
Yeah.
care about you. He's not being
Yeah.
nice to the kids. And so what I did was I kind of just up and left. I moved to an entire different town. I left my family behind. Just decided that I didn't want to be Julie Barth anymore and moved and just started, I had two more children. Just kind of thought I could reinvent myself and leave it all in the past. I packed
Yeah.
up our belongings, put them in the basement. And it got to the point where he not only didn't he not want hear about it, but he would not let me. If I even said Colin, there was a fight. My children weren't allowed to talk about him. I was not allowed to put up pictures of him.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, it was a combination of me not wanting to, and then when I did want to, I was not allowed to. So,
Yeah,
it kind of caught up to me. What was good for me and what I needed at the start. I think if I had looked at the bigger picture.
it would have
But
been
again,
yeah.
yeah, I think you do what you do when you need it. And I try not to look back and think, well, that was dumb, because I don't know that I would have survived if I didn't take the road I did. And there was a reason for it.
Well,
So
yeah, and so many women are in emotionally abusive relationships, mentally abusive relationships, and don't even, to your point, realize it until you're kind of down the road, and you're like, "Hold on, wait a minute, this is not
yeah,
normal."
yeah.
What were some of the, you've said some, but what were some of maybe you talked about red flags? Do you mind sharing some of those red flags you now wish you had recognized earlier, that you're just like, "Oh wow, like that was glaring. Like how did I miss that?" Stop somebody.
Yeah. I think that I saw them. Sometimes I think as women, it's not that we don't see them. I think we
Mhm.
all have those aha, like that was weird.
That intuition
Um,
kicks in, and you're
yeah,
like,
but you feel like it's your job to fix it, or I must have
yes,
misunderstood, or
yeah.
oh well,
Make
I must.
excuses.
Yeah, I was a little nasty there. Maybe I should have backed off. Maybe I should have let him have time instead of when he didn't come
mm,
home last night. Whatever it was, I was always so quick
what's
to
that?
say. And he was, telling everyone how crazy I was, and really making me out to be this monster. So, I couldn't talk to any of my friends that I still had, if I even had them, because he was going back home and telling them that I was that I was broken and I was crazy. And I'll be honest, a lot of the things that I was doing in response to what was going on did probably from the outside seem crazy. And I started thinking, am I broken? Like, did it, did the situation with Tatum and with Colin, because he would say, like, that it was all me, that I just had anger issues that I had. And I started to really believe it, that, maybe everything I went through, I need therapy. I need to fix this. I need to fix me. And I spent probably 6 years trying to fix me. But no matter what I did to fix myself, nothing ever changed between the two of us in our house.
Mm. It definitely sounds like there was a lot of abuse, very similar to you. When my ex husband didn't come home twice, I was like, okay, well, clearly there's something wrong with me. Let me do more. Let me show up
Yeah.
more. Let me sleep with him a little bit better, pull out some of my best tricks so that I can make him or
Yeah.
entice him to come home. And it's like, yo, sis, none of that is going to work, because if
No.
it's not in them, nothing you do on the outside will get them to change, be better, show
Yeah.
up the way you need them to. So in the fixing, yes, of course, we all have things that we need to work on, that we are maybe not being our best selves, not showing up in our best light, not communicating properly. But if there is a very real, like, no, you have a character issue, like there's something awry or amiss with your character, nothing you do, no matter how many handstands you pop yourself into, how many therapy sessions you go to, nothing will change. And then that abuse, it seeps into other parts of your life. Many times, especially when it comes to women, is that financial abuse. It is literally one of the most misunderstood forms of control. And so I would love for you to share, like, okay, how did that show up in your life? And then how can you begin to take back your independence? I know now you have the outreach organization that you have, the College Barth outreach organization. How do you suggest, or what would you say are the steps for women to begin to take back their independence?
Well, when I was coming off of, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, but I had four little kids and I lost Colin. And although, there was some life insurance there, it's quick to burn through it. And I didn't have the time to work. So, he came along and pretended that he was going to, be a contractor. And I, bought houses that he was supposed to be redo. And, he was spending all of our money and telling everyone that I was spending the money. And, I was just, it was a web, because the more money I put out, the more was gone, the more that I kept looking to him like, oh, okay, well, you say you're going to do A, B, and C to save us. I'll just wait until you save us. Um, And then at a certain point, I just realized that he was never going to save us. And he was doing things like he wouldn't hand in his tax information. So I couldn't get the children because I was getting, some supplements for Tatum, my special needs daughter. And, I was on some aid through Social Security and the survivor benefits and, all these other like things. Well, he wouldn't give me his taxes. So like I couldn't claim it. They were going to cut all my things. I didn't have the money. So I was constantly in this like fight mode. Like and then I would be on the phone like yelling at people at Social Security because I'm so stressed out. And I was like, you can't take my Social Security. And I'd get off the phone and he'd say to me, you are so mean. Look at the way you treat people on the phone. And like the back of my head was like, you are cause it, you should be on the phone, but I was too afraid to say it. So I was just like, yeah, you're right, you're right. And I had to figure everything out. I kept getting bills that he wasn't paying stuff. Even I still get bills. Stealing money, taking money from his parents and not and telling them that I was doing it. And it was just this like I was constantly just trying to pay the rent, make sure Tatum didn't lose her health insurance. And when we moved away and we got where we moved to, Tatum, my special needs daughter, ended up getting coming down with a rare form of cancer. So not only it was completely unrelated to her birth genetics, but it involved, a series of 40 some surgeries after we had left home and I had no one. And I'm juggling all these kids and medical bills. And I didn't have money for anyone to watch the kids, but he would never help with the kids. So yeah, I really was. And I think,
Not even his two, the two
oh, no,
extras.
no, there was
Oh,
never any money coming from him whatsoever. No. And, he would tell everyone he would tell everyone that he was paying and I was just off vacationing and not doing anything. But,
so you
I
were
was
in
always
love.
working.
This was you were in
Oh,
real,
yeah.
real love and lust. It sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was in love. Obviously, I was in love with the person that I wanted him to be. I'm not quite
Right.
sure I was ever in love with the person he was. I had created a second Colin in somebody who was nowhere near Colin at all.
Right.
But I think that I had never had any complications with Colin. If like we had an argument, we sat down, we talked about it. It was easy. Like, and here I'm with the second person, and I'm like, I don't fight with anybody. I don't like yelling. I don't like confrontation. And here I am, like screaming and text fighting and running outdoors and crying and chasing. And I'm thinking, who is this person? Like,
Yeah.
this is not me. And
Yeah.
then from the outside, I'm worried that everybody's going to see that I am crazy. And so I squash it and I just tried to make it work and fit in and, just kept pulling back. And the more I would pull back, the more things he would do to trigger me and push at me and get me to react. So he could say, see, you're crazy, because then he could get whatever he wanted from me for the next month, whether that was a new truck or, not to come home for a week or, there was always that punishment period where I would promise that I wouldn't cause problems and he would be on his worst behavior during those 2 weeks until I would flip out again. And then I would be the crazy one again. So it was a cycle of keeping me where he wanted me whenever he wanted me.
So then what would you say, are the steps like for folks like, okay, I realize like this situation is not going to work. We cannot stay in this way. So what are the steps that you suggest folks take to take back that independence? Once you realize like, I've got a nutter butter on my hands. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to do some things differently. So what are the steps that you begin to take to reclaim your independence?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I suggest, because I do, try and help out with a lot of women in the area. One of the biggest things I think is that you have this impression like I'm going to lose everything. If I cannot keep this together, because you become so tunnel focused on keeping it together that you're on autopilot. You are literally feeling like you are going to die if you do not keep this together. And they have you so convinced that you're going to be homeless, that everyone's going to hate you. You will have no family. You will be on your own. So you're just sitting there thinking, if I leave this, I'm going to die. I mean, you don't, everything is going to be gone. And I would love to say that I hit a point where I was like, nope, I'm doing this myself. But it wasn't even that. It was my son came to me and he said to me, because I let him back into the house several times. Because everyone, I think, the average woman tries to leave 7 times before it's successful.
Wow.
And my son came to me and said, like, I don't understand why you keep letting him back in. Like, I haven't had a childhood because he's been abusive. Like, he's threatened to kill you. He's threatened to kill me. I've, slept with one eye open my entire life. Why do you keep doing this? Like, and I knew all of those things, but being in my face saying that to me, was just the moment where I thought, if I don't love myself enough to get out of this and think I deserve better, then I have to get out of this for my children because they deserve better. And the one thing I've always tried to pride myself on is being a good mom. And in that moment, I recognized that I was not being the best version of myself as a person or as a mother, and that they deserved better. So I think that to anyone out there that's feeling like they're going to lose it all, because I knew I was going to lose my friends, my family, everyone had believed him, and I would have to walk away. And that was the most terrifying thing in the world. I will say that I now, getting on the other side of it, it does take getting on the other side of it. I would live in a trailer park and make do with all of us living in one room just to never have to have one more day of what I lived before that. My
Yeah.
very, very most horrible worst day today is 10 times better than my best day for an entire decade of living in this confused state, trying to please somebody and never pleasing myself. Always worried. I just always worried. What is he doing? What is he going to do? Is he going to, it just had me on a constant state of, you know, Tasmanian devil all the time, just
A
running
roller
around
coaster.
trying to fix things. So,
Mhm.
yes, you might lose it all. I'm not going to lie. You might lose everything that you think you value. But I think that sometimes the things you lose are the very things that you don't want. You just can't see it until you get on the other side of it.
You don't even realize you don't need it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's the very thing that is keeping you stuck. Like, but why did I care so much? Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my house. It's just four walls, and when you're in it, it seems like that would be the worst thing in the entire world. But it takes getting beyond it to recognize, like, that house was not helping me. It was a burden to me. That whatever
it
it
was a
was, those
prison.
friends, yeah,
Yeah.
the friends that didn't believe me and thought I was crazy and never confronted or gave me time to tell my story, they weren't my friends to begin with. And they were just harming me by constantly going back to that poisoned well of apologies. And I hope you don't think I'm crazy. And it's one thing, the things you lose, really, I don't think they're what you think they are, because if they were, you're not going to lose them.
That's very, very true. And you were talking about like just that moment where, you had that conversation with your son. And sometimes for a lot of people, they'll have like that aha or that moment that shifts things into perspective. And then they're strong in that short spurt. It's easier to be strong for like a quick moment and maybe you get out of the house. But like you said, it takes the average woman several times, 7 times to actually leave an abusive relationship. But what does the resilience look like when life is always throwing something and unexpected challenges your way? Like, how do you stay the course, right, without going batshit crazy and
Yeah, I
still
think
feeling
because, yeah,
hopeful?
I think I think the best thing you can do is break it down. Like, when I finally, he walked and I stopped chasing. So I'm not going to say I ended that. I stopped chasing and said, fine, if this is what you want, that's it. I think it was just literally every day waking up and not thinking about the big picture of what you have to do. I have to get a job. I'm going to, but waking up and saying, okay, today I'm going to do my resume, and I'm going to I'm going to figure this out, get that done. And then you're like, okay, for today, I'm going to put it away. I've done the best I can for today, and I'm going to fix tomorrow. And I think when you start breaking it down and you start actually and acting rather than thinking about it, taking action it puts you in a position of power, and it makes you feel accomplished, and it shows you that you can do things. You can't change the world. I couldn't, get divorced, find a job, and save my house in a day, which is how your brain works. Like, but I could, reach out, and maybe I got a couple writing jobs. That was good. And okay, well, I have those two. I'm just going to rearrange my, my financials, and I'm going to cut that. And I just think anytime. you find success in the small actions, it encourages you to make a little bit bigger next time, and then a little bit bigger. And then all of a sudden you're finding, wait a second, I'm doing this on my own. And I think that's what it came to is, waking up one day and saying, the thing I was so afraid of is doing it on my own. But no, I was not only doing it on my own, but I was fighting somebody who was trying to throw wrenches into it all the time. So I had been on my own for 11 years, with this additional like
Burden.
tumor that I couldn't get rid, that was making everything that much worse. So I
Yeah.
just think turning all of that anxiety into action. Sit down, like
Mhm.
literally make a list. This is what I have to do. I mean, I'm a list maker, and I really do think that when you put it on paper, um, but that's what our charity is about, is um, offering women the help, because when you hit crisis, whether that's your husband's sick, or your husband leaves, or your child gets sick, because I was a special needs parent, you're in such like confused, I don't even know what I need, that you don't even know what you need. So we try and come in and say, okay, you need to find a lawyer, here's a contact, they specialize in that, and we here are the charities that you are eligible to. So we're trying to be kind of like a concierge consulting service to people for free, that say, here's what you're eligible for. These are very small grants, but apply to these, so
Mhm.
that we tell you what to do so you can get it done, and then focus on healing instead of,
Mhm.
you can't heal when you've got all of this like stuff that you're trying to research and figure out, and it's like running around in circles. So we're trying to like kind of bridge all of those eligibility requirements, which are so ridiculous, trying to find companies that are willing to take remote, for a lucrative career, not just like
Yeah.
minimum wage where you're trying to find childcare that doesn't work. And so those are kind of the things we're trying to tackle, because those are
Yeah.
the things that keep people stuck. That, if even if you're ready to leave someone, if you feel like you cannot do it on your own, you're not going to leave.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
it that much harder for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The only reason I settled in when I was about to leave, because my ex-husband basically said, well, if you leave, understand, I'm not going to give you any of the money that the military was giving him to pay our mortgage. He's like, I'm not giving it to you anymore. I'll have to think about me and you'll have to figure it out. And I'm like, but we have a daughter who lives in the house that they're paying you money to pay for.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? He literally told me, he's like, you'll figure it out. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I will. And it
Yeah.
literally, I went back to a a quote that I had heard my entire childhood, is the best way to eat an elephant is a piece at a time. Don't look at the big goal that you have to accomplish,
Yeah.
but take it and break it down into small bite-sized parts. And I really like what you said, is action alleviates the anxiety, where if
Yeah.
you can just get in motion, get in action, it really and truly does help you to
Yeah.
move the needle forward. And I say it all the time, it's an African proverb, little by little, a little becomes a lot. And because you don't even realize it, before you know it, like, yo, I couldn't even crawl, but now I'm running. Like, I
Yeah.
can see myself progressing. And you talked quite a bit, because when you are learning how to run again, it can feel incredibly lonely, but what it sounds like is you're creating a tribe and a community for women who need it. And so when you were feeling lonely, because I know you said when you read it again, you were like, wow, I was so alone. So when you are feeling like, you are in isolation or you are alone, especially as a caregiver, what can like the friends and the family and the community members do to better support women who are experiencing what you experience, whether it's, the death of a partner, or the issues with a child, be it medical or emotional, because children have a vast number of, things that they experience
Hmm.
that are
Yeah.
challenging for them. So what can folks do?
Well, I think that there's this I think our society is so um set on, I don't want to bother them. How many times do you say like, I don't want to bother them?
Mhm.
I can honestly say I don't remember anybody bothering me. If they called me and asked me what's going on, I was never bothered by that.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so, don't feel like you're overstepping your bounds, or maybe they want their privacy. If they want their privacy, they will tell you, you know what, I just can't do this today. Um, I found a lot of people took, a lot of steps back, and they were like, I just need to give her space. Space is good in a certain amount, but when everybody does at once, it almost
Like, wait
feels,
a minute. Wait,
no,
where'd
it
everybody
almost,
go?
yeah, and it almost feels like I've done something wrong. So I pull back. You're
Mm.
pulling back, so I'm going to pull back. And, I'm sure there was a little bit of resentment on my part. Like, well, great, when I really need you. And I felt like they were abandoning me. And looking back on it, they weren't. I'm sure that they were met when they called me. I sounded very stressed out. I sounded very panicked, and they probably thought, "Oh, yeah, I don't want to panic her anymore." But
Mm.
unfortunately, that's what you're going to meet when you're reaching out to someone in crisis. You're going to get that panic. You are going to get, maybe even anger. You are going to get their emotions because they're sitting in it. You're offering a bridge. But when you do that, just be a shoulder. They're not mad at you. They're not angry with anything you've done. They're not saying, I don't want you to call. They're literally saying, like, I have all of this anger and anxiety. I can't be mad at my husband. He's sick. What is he going to do about it? I can't be mad at God. Where is that going to get me? So it's like it just sits in you. So I'm sure there's a component when you call people that sounds like they're angry, and they are, but not at you. And I
Mm.
think that the another thing is, a lot of people will, and rightly so, and graciously so, say, What can I do to help?" We all say that. What can I do to help? When you're in crisis, you don't know. Like, I don't know what you can do to help. So I'm not going to ask you for help because I don't even know what I need. So if you want to help someone and they're going through something like that, look around. I mean, don't ask what you can do. Say what I'm going to do. Call someone and say, "Hey, listen, I'm either going to pick your kids up or I'm going to go to the grocery store, choose. Or I'm going
Real
to the,
help.
Ooh.
what am I going to get?
Real
Or
help. Yeah.
I'm coming over to do your laundry. If you don't want me around, I will come from 12 to 1. If you want to talk, I'll be there. If not, I'm going to do your laundry." And
Wow.
again, I think people feel like they're stepping on toes or they're bothering, even if there is that approach in the person who, like, kind of is like, "Oh, I don't want to see people today." I will tell you, when someone just shows up and does it, you forget how great it was to have them there, and you think, I'm so glad they did that, because I would have pushed
Yeah,
them away and said, don't come over, because I
Yeah.
don't want you to see
absolutely.
me like this. I don't want you to see my house. I don't want you to see my craze. But when that initial, "Oh my gosh, you see me at my worst," is it gets 5 minutes, and then you're talking to someone and you have somewhere to, like, feel human again, and
Yeah.
you're not bothering, it, like, almost catapults you back and allows you to be the person you were, for even if it's for 30 minutes when you stop by. And that's the other thing, is
Yeah.
take the time to stop by in person. Sending a text message, that's really nice too. I'm not saying it's not, but I
Yeah.
also find a lot of people that I talk to that have been through major life crisis, they don't like phones. And I don't know what it is. Like, I will not pick up a phone. And I haven't for many years. And I don't know why. When that phone rings, it, like, sends anxiety into me. And I know a lot of people that have that same experience after going through this. So, just stop by, knock on the door, remind them that you're a real person. You're not,
Yeah.
just a voice on a phone. You're here. I'm going to give you a hug. I'm going to do whatever you need me to do. I had 30 minutes. Either I'm going to stand here and talk to you, or you're going to put me on something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Danny and I do that for each other. When I was going through a really, really difficult time in my marriage where and she didn't even know it, but I literally wanted to die. Like for me, I felt like I was worth more dead than alive. And she literally showed up. I don't even remember what the conversation was, if there was a conversation. She showed up with a friend, and for those few hours, I felt like I was me again. Like I knew
Yeah.
joy again. Like I laughed, we played, we had fun. Like we talked about things that I just didn't feel comfortable saying. And it really helped me to hold on a little longer. And I wasn't ready to leave my ex husband at the time. But that glimmer of hope, it was like, oh, I still can find joy. Like she had walked into my house and she was like, no, this feels heavy. None of my other friends had felt that because I thought I was doing a great job at masking it. Ooh, I was
I'm
like,
sure you are.
Hold
And you
on.
probably were, though. I mean, to
Wait a
everyone besides the one that really knows you the best,
Yeah.
And
Well, at the time we were actually new friends, so
mhm,
I hadn't
okay.
really known her that well, but
yeah,
I would consider myself pretty intuitive and
Intuitive.
and
Yeah.
clairvoyant in a lot of ways. So I was like, it's cold in here and it's 99 degrees outside in Florida, you know? But I love what you said about just showing up and
Mhm.
just doing. I, even when I'm not in crises and I'm like putting an event together in my house because I love to host, and someone comes up to me and goes, "What can I do?" It is the most annoying question of life.
Yeah.
Like, do not ask me, what do I need help with? What do you need me to do? Like, I don't know.
Look around.
Like,
I'm sure you can
no.
find something.
Like
Yeah,
your
like,
brain can't, like, I can't think for you too. I
well,
can
and
only
if I have to, I'm going to lose time if I have to
yeah.
stop and tell you, and I don't have time to lose. So just stand over there and let me
Yeah,
go.
exactly. And get out the way since you don't know what to do, since you're useless, you know? So I
Yeah.
resonate with that even when I'm not in crises. I literally
Yeah.
find that so aggravating. So I love that you said that because I believe that most people want to show up for you, but they genuinely don't know how. Like they
Yeah.
don't even know where to start. They don't know like what's okay, especially if they are, I feel like when they haven't been through crises themselves, they don't really know what people need. They don't know, you know. So I think that that's good, and I really hope our listeners take that and run with it. Where it's just like, you know, the first thought that you have to do something, do it. Don't second
Yeah.
guess yourself. Don't doubt yourself. The worst thing they can do is just not let you in. The worst thing
Yeah.
they can do is tell you to f off. But at least they know. And we also have to. We talk about this a lot, where everyone is using a lot of buzzwords like boundaries and, you know, you don't want the toxic friend and things like that. But I also feel like it's creating a space where we just don't show up for people anymore, where if
Yeah.
everyone's life isn't perfect and everyone's life isn't looking how it should look, and if everyone's not living a soft life or a glamorous life, then something's wrong with them. And then we forget how to be there for people and to like care for people because their life is too toxic. Or, you know, I definitely want to encourage people in the sense of this conversation to remember that people are going to go through things. People
Yeah.
are going to, and you want people to be there for you when you go through things. So you don't want to just cut every friend off because they're not showing up as their best self for a period of time, and it could be years. But if your friend is not going out of their way to intentionally harm you, if they are not like, you know, destroying your life, let's try to take a step back sometimes instead of walking away. You know, because there are people that really are suffering when they really just need someone, like you said, come do my laundry, come watch the dishes, come watch my baby so I can take a nap. Don't come here, you know, like when, especially when women just have babies and people want to visit. I don't let people visit me for 30 days because I'm not about to clean up my house and cater to you and try to feed you when I just had a baby and you came over here empty. Why are you coming to visit pregnant women empty handed? I just, where is my snack? Bring me a snack, bring me some water, bring me some detergent. Like, it's just like people just, we're just getting very badly. And I think social media and like, you know, the disconnection is just making it harder and harder for us to really understand what it means to be in community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think people are so afraid of being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Uncomfortable situations make people uncomfortable. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's the part of life. Like, yeah, your
Yeah.
life is not like social media. You only present the good things online. So anything
Highlight
outside
reel.
of that,
Yeah.
everyone's kind of like, oh, I don't want to get in a lot of, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved.
Yes. They just want to stay on the surface. Like, I just want to
Yeah.
eat and have a drink with you, but I don't really want to know about your shit. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care.
That's you. You
Yes.
deal with that. Yeah. And you know,
Yeah.
Yes.
it almost feels like you're putting them out by asking, you're not even asking for anything besides, am I the wrong one here? But you almost, I found that when I started talking about uncomfortable things, it was almost like a gloss came over the person. Like,
Right.
can I leave now? You know, and
Like,
then you're like, and
can I
you,
disappear?
yeah, and you, so that's the cue. And if you're an intuitive person, that is a cue that you get, like, don't do that again. They don't want to
Yeah.
hear it.
Mhm.
They're going to leave. They're not going to come back.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to be around people, you need to be want around a ball. And I think that's why a lot of us start dancing and not talking about it. And we
Yeah.
disconnect from who we really are. And I think that diminishes truly the suffering that we're going through because we're trying so hard to hide it for everyone else. We're hiding it from ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
Danny said something to me the other day, and I don't tell you enough, but I truly do appreciate you so, so much.
Mhm. Thank
I
you.
was telling her about an issue that I was having, and she was like, why have you never told me this? And I'm like, well, because I lost a friend before when I acknowledged all of the depth of things that I was going through. And she was like, I don't just love you during the good times. Like, I love you in spite of it all. And I'm trying not to cry because I do not cry on these podcast episodes. We do not do
Don't
that.
cry because then I'm going to cry.
I'm not.
And I have on lashes today. And I don't want to.
But it was so beautiful to know that even through the things, even if they last way longer than I imagined that they would, to know you have a friend who leave you because things are not perfect. It is not the highlight reel, and they're willing to sit in your shit with you. You only need one or two of those, and I'm cool with one if I'm
Yeah.
keeping it a buck.
Yeah.
But knowing, like, to have a very real friend, that is beyond. So having your organization and what you're doing for women to show, like, no, 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 there's still a community even through your mess. We're gonna
Yeah.
help you get through it so that you can work your way out of your mess. We're gonna be here for you while you're
Yeah.
sitting in it. That is an invaluable gift
Yeah.
that you're offering for women.
Because we say this as the communities that we create is community is the game changer.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
whatever it is you're trying to do, the next level up is, and the cheat
Community.
code is community. When you
Yeah.
can get in community with people who are either like-minded or they are several minds ahead of you, where they have figured a lot of things out and they
Yeah.
can help guide you, they can mentor you, they can have compassion, they can hold the space because they have been through the shit too. They're like, somebody's like, oh, that's all he did, girl. Mine did.
Yeah.
X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z. Like,
Yeah.
there is hope on the other side. Like, and it's
Yeah.
not about, comparing war stories. It's just about there are other people who honestly, and it's just the craziest thing. Sometimes you'll hear a story, and the fact that there is a worse story out there is wild.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
it
There's
is
always someone better, worse off than you. And I
it's
try to keep that. That's
crazy.
a huge thing that someone was asking me the other day. How do you do
Yeah.
it? And I said, it could always be worse. I mean, it
Yes.
literally could
Literally.
always be
And you don't
worse.
want to like
Always.
invalidate
Yeah.
your experience or like downplay your experience with that. So I think it's like a healthy balance of like acknowledging and honoring what you've experienced. And also, this could be worse. Like there are people, like you're gonna meet someone one day, they're gonna be like, yeah, and then these 100 things happen, and you're like, oh, like,
Let me take my little stuff
okay,
back.
God, I'll take this bag and I'll pick up this bed and walk because there's just so much more that life has to offer
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the form of pain. And I wanted really quickly before we wrap up, I wanted you to kind of just tell us what the other side has looked like for you.
Yeah.
What is the other side? And I don't know if we fully get to a whole other side because life is going to keep lifing, but what has like the healing and the decision to help others, what has that brought you as far as your own kind of success?
Um, I think that just remembering who I am is the, you know, because I think for 15 years I had no sense of who I was. Like I felt like I had a good core, but someone was telling me I wasn't. And all these people, so I think success today really just that I can look in the mirror, and if you don't like me and I've said something that you don't like, um, either you come to me and we have that conversation, or I have to be okay in saying, well, that's really on you. That's not on me. I didn't mean it in malice. Just being okay with the decisions that I've made. I think success comes from like, I think that it's so easy to look back on our decisions and think like, well, that was dumb. Couldn't you see that coming? Couldn't you? And beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
And I did that for many years. But, I think that just always having the outlook of knowing that you make a decision with the information that you are presented in that moment, you make the decision. You don't have the information that comes here or here. And if you made it with the intent and goodness in your heart, even if it doesn't end up the way you want it to, that does not mean that you made a mistake. We are all on a path that we're on for a reason. And I was just saying to someone the other day, like, that is truly the heart of opening up the charity that I did. It's like, just kind of like a backstory. I think when we go through trauma, we just want to put it behind us. Like we don't want to talk about it anymore. We don't want to think about it anymore. Thank God we made it through. Whew, fires and the flames behind us. And when my daughter was in the NICU, she had a trach, and I couldn't get her out of the hospital because she had a trach, and the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. So she sat there for like 3 months while I was like, trying to get her home. And I was on the news, on Channel 5 News in Chicago, and I was going after the insurance company. That's just who I am. And, there was this whole feature article about me and Tatum and my family. And so that resolved. I got her out, not from anything from the news or anything, but I got her out about 2, 3 weeks later. And someone introduced me to her, to a woman about 6 months out, maybe a little bit longer. And she was just introducing me because she was like, Julie could be a good voice. Your son has a trait. Julie can kind of help you navigate. So she called me, and I was like, okay, first thing you have to do is like, you have to find nursing care, and you have to, you have to do all these pre-certifications. And but I'm like, it's going to be a nightmare to get your kid out of the NICU. And she said, oh, no, not at all. And I was like, listen, that's what I thought too. And she said, no, there was this woman that was on the news like 6 months ago going after Blue Cross Blue Shield. And now it's standard that when a child has a trach, they get nursing care. They don't fight it anymore. And I recognized in that moment that it did not affect
Wow.
me. But I think if we all did that, if we all came out of
That's
something that was
amazing.
really tragic and said, okay, I'm going to put that behind me. But before I do, I'm going to make a softer landing for the next person that lands here. I don't
Yeah.
have to devote my life to it, but I'm
Yeah.
going to try and change what I can change or help somebody through that because I've already been through that. If we all did that in our own little ways every day, in whatever hurdles we find, the world would be such a softer place.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so that's kind of, that is where my mission is with the charity. I've been there. You shouldn't reinvent the wheel. If I
Yeah.
had had somebody kind of guiding me, and there's no, because I think that as women, you always feel indebted, like if somebody does something for me, I'm always like, oh crap, I'm going to have to babysit their kids now. Like there's always that like, and having somebody truly say to you, I want nothing in return besides your
Yeah.
happiness. I want nothing but to see you not struggle. You owe me nothing, but when you're done, I would like for you, when you come out of this
Pass
trauma,
the
to
buck.
pass
Yeah.
it for, yeah, pass
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
on to
Absolutely.
somebody else. And
Yeah.
that to me is 10 times better than you ever repaying me, which I don't expect at all. I
Yeah.
just want to see you make it through it. And then that makes my journey less meaningless as well. But turns it into a meaningful reason why I had to go through all those things.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you for the work that you do and will continue to do, and all the women that you'll continue to inspire. And thank you so much for just sharing your story with us and with our audience. I am such a proponent of women from all backgrounds and all races and all creeds having these conversations because I believe we realize how much more we have in common than we have differences. And
Agreed.
just coming from different vantage points, we can really kind of fill up the whole puzzle. It's like, oh, I didn't even look at it like that.
Yeah.
In my culture, we
Yeah.
do it like this, and that's not the right way. So it's
Yeah.
like, we have different vantage points and we have different perspectives and different life experiences. And if we just pull it all together, I feel like it's a really good stew in a lot of
I
Mhm.
ways.
agree. I
Especially
agree.
when it
Yeah.
comes to problem solving. I don't think anyone problem solves better than women. Okay.
Listen,
No.
the best.
Multitask and
The
multitask
best.
too. Yeah.
And the logic and the problem, like I don't know who convinced us that we weren't logical, but shame on them because
Yeah.
Shame.
I don't know anyone more logical than women. So
Yes.
like,
And
so
we
Not
hold
just
the
that, but
emotion
yeah.
while we're being logical. Like we hold the
Yeah.
emotions. We may like put them on the back burner for a moment. We're like, oh, women are so emotional. Not
No.
entirely,
No, not
actually.
unless they're allowed to be. Yeah. We might fall apart afterward, but we certainly have,
Yes.
cured the city before we do. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna
you're
cry as
very
soon
good.
as we
Yeah.
finish. As soon
Give
as
me
the last
something to
person
do. Someone comes
right.
up and says, "Get this done." I don't talk to me because I will not stop until that's done. Then we can talk. But like, if you give a woman a
Right.
task, we get it done. Like, we
We
don't
get it
complain about
done.
it. We don't like, oh, well, I'm gonna. You don't have time. Just get it done. Like,
Just
I don't
get
want
it.
this on my
And
back
well.
anymore.
And
Yeah,
well. Most of us
and
can do it
Yes.
well,
at a certain level. So I just love this. And again, thank you. We want to know where can we stay connected? Where can our audience find you? Where can women get the help? What are the ways they can do that?
All the
sure.
things.
So, so if you go to my website, which is called juliebarthauthor.com, On there, it has links out to the CGAB outreach, the Colin James Barth outreach, where you can get involved. You can send me an email if you need help. Please reach out. I'm the person manning it, so we'll do whatever we can to help you. I have another tab that's called Hope for number 4 Tate, which this is all on the website, but it's my daughter. She does artwork, and we sell her art, and the proceeds go to fund the charity. So if you go on there and you like something, please, consider buying something. It will all go to a good cause. And so, yeah, if you go to juliebarthauthor.com, all the information that you'll need is there to either contact me, get involved, or help in any way. Or if you need help, we can help you.
Okay. Well, you can follow me at the Danny Bordeaux. Bordeaux is Bourdeau. You can go to anywhere. Instagram is at Triggered AFPC to stay connected with the podcast. You can go to triggeredafpodcast.com, and please share this episode with anyone that might be dealing with grief, with anyone that is trying to figure out what the other side could look like and doesn't feel as hopeful. We really think this episode will help.
Yes, and you can stay connected with me all over, everywhere at Alicia Reese. It is spelled Alechia. Y'all know my parents got excited. Last name Reese, Reese. And then make sure you head on over to Just Thrive Now. There is a community over there that is waiting for you to join, because community truly is not only the game changer, but it is the cheat code. One can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight. And if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So until next time, we're going to see you next time together. All right.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye.